Salve! Hello, magical ones. Welcome to the Faerie Witch vlog. I'm the Faerie Witch, and today we are doing a little baking episode. So I welcome all of you, whether you're brand new or a subscriber. I thank you so much for tuning in. I know you have a busy life, and I thank you so much for watching, and hope you'll like this recipe. This is going to be we are going to make a little orange fairy cake. So I hope you'll enjoy it. It's a really good recipe. I've tried to keep it as simple as I can, and I hope you'll like it. And it tastes pretty good. It's pretty good. And I actually do another variation of this cake. I probably will do that episode later, maybe next month. So I hope you'll check back for that. For all of you who are new to the podcast and you wonder what goes on around here, well, pretty much anything. You never know what you're going to get, but I try to keep everything fairy related or cat related because I am a fairyologist. I'm a cat trainer, artist, knitter, designer, fairy craft magic practitioner, kind of a baker, a little bit of a gardener, so you never know what you're going to get. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It would be great. And we're going to get started making this cake. So I hope you'll enjoy it. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a white cake mix already bought pre-packaged. I try to keep it simple. Some baking powder, some nonstick spray, and you need a bundt cake pan. That's the word. So that gets you started. We'll go on from there for the icing, but for the cake, that's what you're going to need. So you also need a mixing bowl and a mixer, or if you don't mind doing it by hand, you can do that too. So first things first, we are going to make the cake. So I'm going to grab my mixing bowl, and we're going to put in our cake mix. Let's see. There we are. Okay, so you open up your packaged white cake mix, and you just follow the instructions on the box. So, there we go. Okay, now for a little secret recipe that I always do for any of my cakes, whether it's cupcakes or cakes, I always add a little bit of baking powder. It doesn't call for it, but I do it. It seems to keep the cake moister longer, so even though you have it in the fridge or in a container, it doesn't harden up, so it gives you a few extra days to eat it and enjoy it. So I usually just do it by sight, but you can measure out about tablespoon. That will work. I always do it by sight because I've done it enough, but for you guys, if you're not done that before, 1 tablespoon. Alright, and we're going to preheat the oven at 350 degrees. And we're going to add this. Okay, and then we need, it says, 1 cup plus 1/4 cup of water. So I need my measuring cups, which have gone missing. They're in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So we've got one cup and 1/4. There you go. Water. And pour it in. Alright, there's our water. Okay, then it says a half a cup of vegetable oil. Where are you? I'm buried. Nope. Where did you go? Oh, here we go. Okay, so we got half a cup of vegetable oil. Alright. Pour that in. Okay. Alright, so then the next thing is, it says, you need 4 egg whites. Now that's because it's going to do a white cake. So, yeah. So we need to have 4 egg whites. So let me take a couple minutes to prepare that while you do that too. And we'll rejoin each other in a couple minutes. Alrighty, so I've put 3 egg yolks in here already. I'm on the 4th. I did accidentally get a little bit of the yellow yolk in there. It dripped through. I couldn't stop it. So, yeah, it shouldn't change the color of the cake too much. But it is going to be an orange cake anyway. It's just sunflower cake. No, just kidding. Okay, so I'm not an expert at this. I always struggle trying to get the egg whites. Some people are masters at this, but not me. And I struggle with it all the time. Come on. Get off of there. There we go. Help it along. And a couple other little tips that you can keep in mind when you're doing this is a way to recycle the egg a little bit, and I may have mentioned it in other baking episodes, is that if you keep one of the little eggshells, just kind of rinse it out gently, you can use it and give it as a offering to the fairies at the fairy ring. So you could put little gemstones in it, you could put food in it, you could put milk or water in it, honey, anything you're going to give them as an offering. You can put it in there, you recycle it, and then when you're, the next day, because you don't want to keep it out there for too long, the next day you just can toss everything and you've recycled a little bit. The other thing too is if you're a fellow artist like me, you can save your little yellow yolks from the egg and put it in a baggie, put it in the refrigerator, and then you can use the yolk if you work with gouache. Now gouache, if for those of you who don't know, is kind of it's like a watercolor, but it's thicker, it's heavier, it dries quicker, but and it has more of a saturated color. It's really cool to work with, and so if you work with gouache a lot, and one little tip is if you mix the gouache paint in, you break open the egg yolk, mix a little bit of the yolk into it, it actually will make the paint shiny. So you can get a really shiny finish on your painting or your artwork or whatever with the gouache. So you can reuse your little yolks for that. Something I learned in college years ago from my gouache painting class. Okay, so there's the 4 eggs. And let's see, what do we need next? For egg whites, cake mix, water, fish water. Okay, so the next step is to blend it or mix it. So while I was off camera, I went ahead and put it on the electric mixer. I blended it for 2 minutes, And we've got a nice, cake consistency here. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit. All right, so just going to use the spoon. So you got this nice consistency. Okay, so the next step is to add the orange flavoring. Now you got a couple choices here. You can take an actual orange, and you're going to need the orange anyway. You're going to need an orange. Grab that. Okay, so you're going to need an orange. So your choice is you can use 2 actual oranges and squeeze out, cut them in half, use a squeezer and strain the pulp, strain the seeds. You don't want any of that in the cake, so you just want the juice. So it would take 2 oranges to do that, and you want to hang on to the skin of at least 1 orange for later. Or what you can do, which is easier, I'm about easier and quicker around here, is you want to take a half a cup. You need half a cup of orange juice. So what you can do is just use bottled orange juice, which is what I'm going to do. Okay. Oops. There we are. Okay, so half a cup of orange juice. Pour it into the cake mix. Then you need to mix it again. So either put it back on the blender or just start mixing it up. So start this. And it does make the batter wetter. Yeah, it's really wet. Okay, so I'm going to put it on the mixer. Okay. Now, at this time, if you want to add a little coloring to it, if you want to make it even more orangey looking, then you could add in a little bit of orange food coloring. And I'm kind of thinking I might go ahead and do that. I gotta find it. Right. Since I don't actually have orange, I'm going to use a little yellow and a little bit of red and just be really careful that the red doesn't overtake the color. So we're going to do that and we'll be right back. Okay, so I've added two drops of kind of the yellowy food coloring, 1 drop of red. And then I'm just going to use a spoon and kind of swirl it a bit and see what happens. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of got some little swirls in there. But it kind of looks a little spring colored. It didn't go orange, darn it. Yeah, so, you know, have some orange food coloring on hand if you want it, because obviously the blending didn't work, but it's still pretty. So, heck with it. Fairies will like it regardless. Okay, so we've got a swirl. I hope you can see. I'm trying to tilt it. It does have some coloring. All right, so the next step, let me see here. Okay, all right, and then we need a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and you're just gonna sprinkle that in. So, there's half. Okay, all right. Alrighty, there we go. Now the cinnamon will change the color of the cake. It will make it darker. So if you don't want the cinnamon, you don't have to add it. I'm going to because it just adds a little more flavor and zest, but it might change the color of the cake a little bit. Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, so it's your choice if you want to use the cinnamon or not. And you probably should have put the cinnamon in before you put the food coloring in, but that's, you know, again, that's optional. I did it and it didn't change the color very much, so it works. I'm not upset with it. It looks like it's going to be fine. Okay, let's just get some of that off of the spoon. Alrighty, so that part is done. So now we're gonna use the non-stick spray on our baking pan, the bundt cake pan. Remember the oven is already at 350 degrees. Okay. Okay, and then we're just going to pour the batter into the pan as best we can. And actually, too, with the food coloring, I could have just poured the batter in first, done all those steps first, and then add the food coloring and just use like a knife and just kind of make the swirling. That would have worked as well, and then that way I don't lose as much of the swirl, because I think I'm going to lose some of it by doing it this way. But I can still see the coloring. I can still see it, so. But you can do that too. A couple of different options. Go. Okay. Let's get this out of the way. Alrighty, so we've got our batter in the pan. Make sure it's evenly distributed, and then put it in. Okay, now per the cake instructions, it's going to bake at 350 for, and the print is so small, let's see, where are we? Here we go. For 40 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer. Okay, so we are set. All right, so while that's doing that, the next step is to work on the icing or the frosting. Now, this is the step that can take a little bit longer than the actual cake itself, but it tastes so good if it works out right. So what you're going to need for it is a mixing bowl. Let's see, need a mixing bowl. Two cups of, or 16-ounce carton of cold, heavy whipping cream. Gonna need powdered sugar. And I'm gonna need a whisk. And we need a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So don't worry, I'll go over it again as I do it. Right now, I just need to get a couple of, clear the counter a little bit, get a new mixing bowl and all that, and we'll get started on the icing. Okay, so we are ready to start working on the icing or the frosting, whichever word you want to use. And I got another mixing bowl, I've got a whisk, and I'm going to probably have to put it on the electric mixer as well, probably in the beginning. But yeah, you're going to need an orange, powdered sugar, a 1/4 cup measuring cup, mixing bowl, vanilla extract, and the whipping cream. Okay, so let me grab that out of the fridge, and then what was I gonna do? No. Yeah, I need to get the whipping cream, and then this is, once it's all done, might be done before the cake is. So prepare a little spot in your refrigerator to put your bowl in. That way it keeps it cold and workable until your cake is done and cooled. So also too, because you'll have more time than I do for the video, but you could wait till the cake is completely baked and cooled down and then make your icing. You can do that. But since I'm doing this video for you and I can't keep this on pause for too long, so it doesn't cut off on me, I have to do it rather quickly. So I'm going to have to put this in the fridge and hope it doesn't collapse. And that way we can finish this, right? So, okay, let me grab the whipping cream. Okay, so I just have my little carton of whipping cream, and I gotta open it. Go. Okay, so let me check this here. First things first. Okay, we need 2 cups of the whipping cream. Okay, so I got my cup here. 1 and 2. There we are. And there's a little bit left over in the carton. Like I say, this is a 16-ounce, but I think this is the smallest carton I can get from our particular store. So I usually just share a little bit of it with the garden kitties outside. some cats are lactose intolerant. They can't eat milk or drink milk. So that's why it's better if you're going to feed your cat milk, go to the pet store and buy cat milk. Even then, though, sometimes cats don't like that. They won't drink it. So try it. See if your cat likes it. If you're determined to give them something dairy. But usually just a little bit of cream doesn't hurt the guys outside, and it gives them a thrill. Gives them something new to play with or drink. So I'll save a little of that for them. It's one thing about the garden kitties, a lot of times they will drink and eat anything. So you have to be careful. I have to think about what's safe, to give them. Okay, so we've got the whipping cream in here. Next thing is 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. So I got my 1/4 cup. Oops. Powdered sugar is so pretty. It's so pretty to look at. Oops. It looks like snow. Okay, so I'm going to pour that in. Alright. Next thing is okay. I also have a note on the recipe that if you want a little more powdered sugar for just a little more sugar flavor or sweetness, you could make it a 1/2 cup. I just put 1/4 in. I think that's going to be fine for this time. And then we're going to put it on a low setting on the mixer. Okay. All right. So okay, so you put it on the low setting on the mixer for 1 minute, and it starts to blend it. Then I'm going to turn it all the way up to, mine I think goes up to setting 10. So I'm going to turn it all the way up. But with that, you got to stand there and you got to watch it, because it's going to get frothy, it's going to get fluffy. But if it gets too fluffy, then it's going to drop. It'll deflate. It's like all the air goes out of it. So you got to stand there and watch it. Alrighty, so I let it blend, and it hasn't fluffed up yet. So what I'm gonna do, it's supposed to be for 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep mixing it, and then I gotta add the vanilla extract before it starts getting really fluffy. So I might do that right now. Let me see. We need 1 teaspoon. go. Okay. Okay, and the cake still has 24 minutes to go. Okay, so back to the icing, and I'm trying to get it fluffy. Okay, so the consistency of that frosting is still really wet. It hasn't fluffed. It's fighting me today for some reason, so let me see what I can accomplish and I'll rejoin you. So, good news, finally. All right, we finally got the consistency I was looking for. At least almost. It's close. Let's see. It could stand a little more time, but I'm closer. What I did was I added a little bit more of the powdered sugar, put it on the setting 9, and just let it run for the last 3 minutes. I think I need to put it back on a couple more minutes, but you have to watch it because, like I say, if it starts to curdle, you've done it too long and it's not going to be fluffy. So I have to constantly watch it. So let's try a couple more minutes. Okay, so I finally got the consistency. Yeah, that way when I held it up to you guys, it didn't start to move like it did a few minutes ago. Yeah, this is what I was going for. So I'm going to put it in the fridge because the cake isn't done yet, and I'm not going to mess with it, and hopefully it will stay fluffy. And I'm just going to taste it. That's right. That's good. Okay, so the cake has 12 more minutes, and I just checked it, and it's baking and fluffing up nice. So that's all good. We're almost in the home stretch. Okay, everybody. So I've taken the cake out, and we've got a nice golden color. Actually, I think it might have been there a couple extra minutes. It shouldn't have been. but it's already trying to deflate on me, so I'm going to let it sit and rest, and we'll get back to you in a few minutes when it's ready. Now it is. Hi guys, we're back. Matthew's standing here making goofy faces at me. So, okay, I got the cake out of the pan. It's cooled off nice. It looks fairly decent. So then we would put icing on it, frosting on it. So let me grab that. Are you okay, babe? I hear ya. So where is my frosting? Okay. There we go. This will work. Okay, so I got my frosting and I got a little spatula, and we're just gonna frost this fella up, and then we'll just garnish it and we'll be done. So let's do this. Now it can make enough frosting. This can be enough icing to cover the entire cake, but sometimes I get lazy, or sometimes I just don't want to stretch it because I want it to have the fluffy peaks. And so I just put it on the top, but you can put it all over the base here. You can cover it, so if you can make it stretch without losing the fluffy look, then great. But if you're not sure, or you think, well, this is getting to be a little too much, either make another batch, another batch of icing and have it ready, which I've never done because I admit I'm lazy. And I know there's a puppy peeking up over and down. Welcome to the puppet show. Okay. Never a dull moment around here, folks. Never a dull moment. Like I say, you never know what you're gonna get. Meanwhile, we've got little Faerie crying in the background, so Matthew needs to go talk to his daughter and calm her down. Okay, let's see here. Alrighty. Alright, so it's keeping its fluffy peaks, which is what I want. Like I say, I could spread it a little bit more, but I'm going to just do the top, and I'm trying to make it look a little bit pretty. What I can do. Whoops. But it can be messy. But it looks like snow. It looks like snow has capped it here, which is pretty, which is cool. So it makes this cake really nice to do for December. You can make it a fairy cake on Fairy Day, which is in June. But it makes a good Christmas cake. Right now we're almost at Thanksgiving, so again, this is a really good one for all the holidays. And makes a good birthday cake. You can always do it birthday. So if you want an occasion, you can make it for all that. Alright, so there we go. We are looking good here. As best as we're gonna with all of this. Okay, and so then the last thing you want to do is just put on the orange garnish. So that's where your orange comes in. And you're just going to, actually I'm going to put it in a cup. You're just going to use a little grater. It can be a cheese grater or a little food grater. And you're just gonna, you know, rub off some of the zest. I guess they call it zest when you do this on the skin of an orange. So we're just gonna get some orange zest here. Go. Alright, doing good. Yay! And it's just for decoration, but it does add a little bit more of the citrus flavor to it. There we are. Whoops. It rolled away. Okay, so I've got some little orange zest, and you just want to sprinkle on the top. If you want to. You don't have to, but again, it just adds a little bit of the orange coloring. It makes it a little more festive looking. And you just sprinkle it on. There you go. So I'm not going to overdo it. Well, we could use a little bit more. Let's go for a little bit more. What the hell, right? Alright, let's see. Just a little bit more. Okay. Alrighty, so here we go. Sprinkle it on just wherever, randomly. We're good. Alright, so there we go. We have our orange fairy cake. Yes, it is a little bit messy, I'm afraid, but again, with this frosting, it can be difficult. It's not firm enough to use a icing bag, a piping bag. So I wouldn't recommend that, only because it just won't hold. You're going to be squeezing it out, and then it's just gonna flatten. You're gonna lose the fluff. So yeah, so you're kind of stuck putting it on with a little spatula or a little knife or whatever. But so it's cute. But hey, fairies don't care. They're gonna eat it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. So this is our orange fairy cake. So thank you so very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel. Donate to us if you would like to through our PayPal, which is listed on the channel. And we really thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving, happy fall, and we'll see you in the next one. Arrivederci.